Hello everyone, Ember here, and welcome back to a new video. In this one I'd like to take a look at the many Lucarios of GLC, both fighting and metal. And before you ask, is metal Lucario legal in GLC? We'll talk more about that later on in the video. But yeah, this video is going to be focusing on Lucarios, and I've had a lot of suggestions lately for Pokemon to do in the future, such as Zork, Mew, and what was the other one? Jirachi. That was another one that keeps cropping up, so yeah, I will get around to doing them. I just don't want to rush out these videos because we've got the entire Pokédex to get through. And of course, it sounds a bit selfish, but I don't want to burn through all like the most popular Pokemon choices before we get to the likes of Vivillon and Blossom and stuff like that. I love Blossom personally, but yeah, there's some Pokemon also that just get a bit shafted in the TCG and don't get many cards at all. So I want to give the game itself a fair chance at least to reintroduce some other Pokemon. And of course, this series is a bit awkward to do as well because the videos technically get outdated as soon as a new Pokemon releases for that type. So yeah. But today we're going to focus at Lucarios, all that out of the way. So what is GLC? For those of you who need a quick recap or don't know what it is, it's a single prize only, no rulebox format. So you can't play EXs, V Stars, V Maxes, Radiant Pokemon, Megas, stuff like that, GXs. You can't play Pokemon Break as well, which again, something that I'm a bit like, I would have thought Pokemon Break would be legal, but no, apparently not. No Pokemon Break. But the other main aspect is that it is singleton, except basic energy, and I know this puts a lot of people off, but honestly, being singleton is a good thing. It is a good thing, believe me. So yeah, singleton is good. It keeps things fresh, but it does mean that players are just kind of like forced to play a lot of different Pokemon in their deck. They're not just playing like the best attackers, basically. So yeah, singleton's good, except basic energy, otherwise that would be a bit painful. Only one type per deck, so this is going to be predominantly fighting type driven video. But some Pokemon like Chandelure that we looked at last time, they said last week, I think it's last time, Chandelure was Psychic and Fire. So yeah, no, I said Psychic and Dark for some reason. Why do I think Chandelure was Dark type? It looks like a Dark type, but yeah, Chandelure is Psychic and Fire. So you can see why some Pokemon GLC do get a lot of representation. But yeah, some Pokemon like Lucario are a bit unlucky in that sense, I guess. But yeah. So we can kind of just whiz through the Riolu support for Lucario because it's not really that impressive. I just singled out a few cards here because the artwork was lovely. So if you fancy a rarity upgrade and Lucario happens to be like your favorite Pokemon, I guess, for GLC, then, you've got some nice options for Riolos. I will say the one with Detect is probably the best one because it has tied for highest HP while also having a pretty decent protective attack. But aside from that, I don't think it's that big of a deal if you're not playing the best Riolu. But yeah, just thought it was worth mentioning. But yeah, the first Lucario we're going to take a look at is from Next Destinies / Legendary Treasures, so we've got a bit of a reprint there. Does have the ability Reflective Retaliation, which is okay. Then Orsiphir does 50 damage and 20 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So some sniping capability, can build up some damage over a few turns. The only problem is the Lucario only has 100 HP, so you will have to involve stuff like muscle dumbbells to increase HP by plus 40, or bodybuilding dumbbells, I think it's called. But yeah, either way, it's a bit fragile, so you won't get to use the ability that much, if not more than once. And then Orsphere only doing 50 damage is a wee bit painful, so kind of struggling to recommend this Lucario. I mean, the artwork on the far right I think is really nice actually, but yeah, aside from the art and I guess the minor spread capabilities with this guy, I don't think it's that impressive. So yeah, it's a bit tragic. Unless we get a way to drastically increase fighting type HP in the future, I don't think this Lucario is really worth spending too much time on. But yeah, it's a cool card though. It's at least better than some of the other Lucarios, which we'll take a look at today. So yeah, that's something at least. Next up though is we have two Lucarios from Plasma Storm actually. The one on the right, I don't feel we need to talk about that one at all. Its saving grace is that it has 90 HP, so at least you can use Level Ball for it. Cool, I guess. The one on the left, though, is actually my favorite Lucario in this video. It's easily my favorite one. I think it's way cooler than most of them as well. This Lucario has the ability Dual Armor that says, if this Pokemon has any Metal Energy attached to it, this Pokemon's attacks typing, is both fighting and metal. So you get to hit for two different weaknesses, assuming you can fork out the Metal Energy. Is a bit awkward. You have to play stuff like Aurora, Rainbow, Luminous, or just basic Metal Energy itself. However, I still think Dual Armor is an interesting effect. And then Hurricane Kick does 60 damage and 30 more for each prize card your opponent has taken. For 3 energy, but again, it's not that expensive with double colors. So Yeah, I do think Hurricane Kick is a pretty good attack. Dual Armor, of course, is a very cool effect. So, yeah, it's a pretty cool Lucario. I would say it's maybe the third best Lucario in this list. Yeah, third best Lucario. It's not like the definitive one that you should be playing for sure, but still a very cool Lucario, I would say. So, yeah, gets points for being third best. And you'll see the other two very shortly. But yeah, that's Lucarios from Plasma Storm. Then we have Lucario XY promo, which, fun fact, I used to own this card for a wee while before I traded away. Very fun card. Bone Rush, always a fun attack to use. More famous, I think, on Pyukumuku. But flip a coin to get tails, 30 damage times the number of heads, and then Match Claw. Realistically, you're never paying for this attack, but I guess you can if you really want to. But yeah, mainly here for Bone Rush, which is a bit of a coin flip thing. So if you happen to really like Lucario, we're getting ultra specific for this one. But if you happen to like Lucario and you happen to want to play like a coin flip deck that's fighting types, I guess this Lucario is okay. Honestly, I think the main reason you'd play this is if you had the promo handy and you're just getting into GLC and you're like, oh, I don't have any of the Lucarios, I might as well use this one, you know? It's not great, it's not in the top three or anything, but, you know, thought it was worth mentioning, and it does have some nice artwork, so there is that. So yeah, that's the XY promo. Not too much to say about it, but it's still pretty cool. Next up is we have Fates Collide, which is a bit of a sad state. You know, went from really cool Lucarios to just some very boring ones. The one on the left here is really not that impressive. Beat down, doing above average damage, actually. 40 for 1 energy is quite nice, but aside from that, it's really not that impressive. And then the metal one is really cool, sadly, but again, there's no metal type Riolus. So yeah, tragically, this Lucario is absent from GLC, which is a shame because Fight Alone is a very cool attack. 30 damage and 60 more for each Pokemon fewer you have in play compared to your opponent is a very fun effect to build a deck around, but sadly not legal in GLC. Next up is we have Burning Shadows, which is at least pretty interesting. It's also got a promo artwork to boot if you fancy the rarity upgrade. Has a nice ability stance. It says when you evolve it, you may prevent all damage and, well, all effects of attacks, including damage, done to Lucario until the end of your opponent's next turn, which is a very nice ability to have, you know, especially in a single prize format where Pokemon are constantly just trying to want to kill each other to get a prize card. Lucario is quite nice, you know, stance is nice. However, what's not nice is the 3 fighting energy just to do 120. That's a bit rough, you know. If it did a wee bit more damage, then cool, I guess, but Submarine Blow only doing 120 feels kind of bad. I mean, you can, like, get around this by resetting the ability, I guess, and trying to build it as more of a control-style fighting type deck with maybe Super Scoop Up and Scoop Up Net, which is an option, you know. It is there as an option, but truth be told, or Devolution Spray actually is another one. But truth be told, I don't think this Lucario is super great. Next up, though, is we have Lucario Ultra Prism, which is, I would say, like, also in the top 3 of best Lucarios. Very strong ability, Precognitive Aura, which allows you to, if you have a Garchomp in play, search your deck for any one card. So this card will only be ever good as a Garchomp that you have in your deck. And the Garchomp in question, or the main one, I guess, does 100 damage, and if you played a Cynthia from your hand, it does 100 more. Now, there is other Garchomps. We did do a GLC video talking about the many Garchomps of GLC, so I do recommend checking that out for more context. But either way, I do think the Lucario is worth it if you are playing Garchomp. Just the 2-to-1 effect is fantastic, of course. Still a wee bit awkward to pull off in GLC because you need to get Garchomp and Lucario out, but either way, I still think it's worth it. So, you know, at least in my opinion. Plus, you get access to the rarity upgrades, which is always nice. So yeah, that's Lucario from Ultra Prism. Then we have Lucario from Unified Bra, because both of these are terrible. Well, the second one wouldn't be that terrible if it wasn't a metal type. Yeah, no metal type Riolu, so it's a bit sad. But yeah, fighting type one with Tag Coach, your tag team Pokemon. Spoiler alert, stop there. There is no tag teams in GLC. So yeah, it's only here to do Match Cross, which is 90 damage for 3 energy, which is not impressive. So yeah, even if you think the artwork is sick with Giratina and Garchomp flying in to help him, yeah, this Lucario is awful. So yeah, it's very tragic. And I just wanted to spend a quick second talking about the lost Lucarios of GLC. This is an issue I keep bringing up as my main personal gripe with GLC right now. It's just the amount of Pokemon that are lost because of, you know, the one type per deck rule. I do understand it sometimes because, you know, Riolu is a fighting type or whatever, you get the fighting type advantage. But for some Pokemon, it just makes no sense. Like, why are the evolutions absent, for example? Because Eevee's colorless, you know? Eevee's not going to hit weakness on anything. So, yeah, it really doesn't make sense to me sometimes, and it's just a bit of a shame that we miss out on things like Fight Alone and Rush Up just because, the typing is the way it is in GLC. But yeah, just some food for thought. I still love GLC, but lost Lucarios. It's a wee bit sad, but yeah. Next up, though, is we have arguably the best single Lucario that you can play in GLC, and that is, of course, going to be Roaring Resolve / Aura Sapphire Volley Lucario. Lovely attack name, by the way. But yeah, very powerful effect. Can itself ramp energy for 2 damage counters, which is, of course, a worthy trade off. And then Aura Sphere Volley does 10 damage, and then you discard all fighting energy from this Pokemon, and it does 60 damage for each card discarded in this way. So you could use this as a burst option just to do 130 out of nowhere, which is always quite nice. But the best way of doing this is to, of course, just kind of like stack up a few damage counters when he's on the bench. Hopefully your opponent can't boss it, and then just like going for a big one KO move virtually against anything in the game. Like Wailord, Torterra, doesn't matter what it is, you can probably KO it with a Lucario. So it's a fantastic card in that regard, but it does rely on your opponent not being able to boss it. But again, it's still pretty good if you can just go from Riolu, evolve, use the ability, manually attach, 130 out of nowhere, kaboom, So yeah, fantastic Lucario, easily the best one, probably. Next up is we have a one from Scarlet Violet, which is still quite nice. Has the attack Avenging Knuckle, and then Accelerating Stab is also pretty decent. Avenging Knuckle doing 30, and if any of your fighting Pokemon were KO'd during your opponent's last turn, this attack does 120 more damage. So quite nice that it does 150 for a single energy, because in GLC, of course, you can only play one type, so your opponent KOs something like, I don't know, a Buzzwole, or I want to say Riolu there, but that doesn't work. A Garchomp, for example, I guess, or something random, then you can come in there with Avenging Knuckle and do 150, which is quite nice. It's decent damage, very respectable for one energy in GLC. One thing I will say, though, is you're never really getting that kind of like scary 1-hit KO potential that the Roaring Resolve one isn't. But I suppose as well, if you're focusing less around abilities, maybe you don't want to play around Weavile, or maybe, you don't want to, you want to have access to greens, I should say, like Greens Exploration, then maybe this Lucario would be a lot better. An Accelerating Stab doing the flat 120 is just quite nice because it's just the most damage that most Lucarios are ever doing. Like, Lucarios in this video are certainly showing the rage. Like, most of them are not doing enough damage. Like, a lot of them are just doing less than 100 base usually. So having the option to do 120 flat is quite nice. But, assuming you'll probably be playing, like, other fighting type Pokemon that can do decent damage anyway. But either way, I still think this is a pretty good Lucario. It's not great, but it's still pretty good. But yeah, thank you for watching. I do a new set review for GLC with each new release, so subscribe if you're interested in being updated on that front. I'll try and make other GLC videos, like this is my main new series, I guess. I'm just going to keep doing these videos because I enjoy making them and people seem to like them, so I'm going to keep doing them. It is difficult to come up with other content for GLC though without involving IRL usually. I would like to do IRL GLC content at some point, but it probably won't be anytime soon, especially not with what's happening with my life right now. But yeah, it's complicated. But if you want to dive into the competitive side, I would recommend checking out Omnipoke and the format creator himself, Tricky Jim. Both done fantastic videos and guides for each type. So especially if you just want to play in like tournaments, you want to get to know GLC a bit more, or you want a deck list for a specific type, then Tricky Jim, I know for a fact, has multiple lists of each type on his website. So, be sure to go check that out. And yeah, thank you for watching. Let me know which Pokemon you'd like to see in the future. As always, do plan on doing a few more, and I think the next one, well, not a few more, I'm doing all of them. I will do every Pokemon, well, I'm going to try to at least. But yeah, I think the next Pokemon might have to be Jirachi. I've been putting Jirachi off because a lot of them are promos, and I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of the fact that I have to like talk about promos. But yeah, I do like Jirachi a fair bit, so either be like Jirachi or Mew. Someone did suggest Zoroark, which I really want to do at some point. But yeah, I might do Jirachi, then Mew, then Zoroark. We'll see though. But anyway, thank you for watching. As always, it's a pleasure to do these videos. And yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.